The ACT likes these kinds of questions. It's essentially a function question, a piecewise function. You'll see that there are two pieces, one, two pieces. There's a change in slope, could be curves, but as far as these real world word problem functions, usually going to be slopes, line segments. And you got to figure out what could apply here. So there can be some question as to scale or as to on the x and the y-axis, changes in direction, things like that. So this is a fairly simple version of this. There's only one change. So you have two pieces. And you have three Roman numerals to choose from. And they're asking you, at time one, if only one of these things happened, which could it be? So let's look at what's happening to begin with. So right now the bathtub is filling from the faucet, right? So right now the water level is going up. And at time one, it goes flat. At time one, it goes flat. Okay, so the faucet was turned off. Okay, that would work, right? So the faucet's turned off. That means the water wouldn't increase in level anymore. So anything that doesn't have one, we're going to mark off. And that's the way to handle these Roman numeral questions. Whether it's this kind of topic or anything else, you kind of want to go through and test each Roman numeral, decide true or false as best you can. You may not always be able to come to a conclusion about each one in your first pass. Then mark off whatever doesn't contain it. Now, I don't even need to look at two, but let's just talk about it because, you know, it's a video, right? Rate of flow into the bathtub is increased. Well, that doesn't make any sense because if we turned up the water, right, then the slope would get steeper. You know, it wouldn't go to zero from a positive slope. So we only really need to look at number 3 and decide yes or no. And this is really tricky. So this problem, while I said it's simple, it is simple, but it is a hard problem, I think. The drain was opened. So, you know, we typically think about the drain being open, causing the water to drop. So on the surface, that would seem like it would make it drop. But remember, we're only doing one thing at a time. And if we're increasing the water currently, and we open the drain, and it just so happens that the outflow from the drain is equal to the inflow from the faucet, then the tub will stay at the same level. So the correct answer is actually going to be 1 or 3. This in particular, a little bit more so than your standard one of these kinds of questions, has a sort of a logic element or a very common sense, outside the box. It's not even really common sense, outside the box thinking sort of component to it. It's the reason I picked this one. But in general, the process is going to be the same. You see, there's examples in the book and the pre-test in particular where you have 5 Roman numerals and 3 of them fit, and you have to figure what order they happen in. That's kind of the standard for this question. So you just go through, you mark it off, you figure out one thing, mark off, figure out the next thing, mark off. You know, and hopefully you don't even have to figure out the third thing, but you know, oftentimes you do, though not always. So that's it for these this sort of catch-all category that I'm calling word problem functions that included the table questions and these. Now, if it were me, I would check. I am me, but if it were me, I would also make sure I spent some time on graphing systems of inequalities and functions, because those are really important topics in this coordinate geometry section.